My name is Lauren Whitaker, 32 years old, a senior tax accountant with the IRS. I've spent years hunting down fraudsters, unraveling schemes that could bankrupt families or fleece the government out of millions. But at home, I'm just the boring one who crunches numbers while my siblings steal the spotlight. Those Sunday dinners at my parents' place in suburban Plano, Texas, feel like Groundhog Day. Same roast beef, same small talk, same subtle digs that make me want to scream. But last Sunday, it hit different. As Mom passed the mashed potatoes, Dad grinned like he'd won the lotto and said, "Scored big time. Sold off those dusty old stock certificates for $5,000 in cash. Piece of cake." The table erupted in laughs, nods all around. I sat there, heart slamming, my IRS badge tucked in my purse like a ticking bomb, knowing Dad had just waltzed into a federal tax scam without a clue. And before we get back to the story, would you be kind enough to give this video a like? You know, every single like means a lot to me. It's the kind of encouragement that keeps me creating and bringing you even better stories tomorrow. I grew up in a cookie-cutter neighborhood in Plano, where backyards had swing sets and Fridays meant high school football under the lights. But while the other kids were out tossing balls or gossiping at the mall, I'd be in my room, poring over my piggy bank ledger like it was the federal budget. Numbers made sense to me. They didn't judge, didn't play favorites. My parents, Diane and Robert Whitaker, never saw it that way. Mom was a school counselor, the type who'd mediate playground fights and preach about real connections over screens. She'd say things like, "Lauren, honey, life's not all spreadsheets and calculators. Why not try cheerleading like your sister?" Dad ran a hardware store downtown, the kind with dusty shelves and loyal customers who paid in cash. He used a beat-up calculator for inventory, but trusted his gut more than any app. "Numbers are tools, kiddo," he'd grunt. "But you need a trade people can see, like fixing things with your hands." Their push for practical paths only ramped up when my siblings hit their strides. My older sister, Caitlin, became a pediatrician, saving kids from ear infections and worse, always with that white coat glowing like a halo at family gatherings. Ethan, my brother, went the lawyer route, specializing in real estate deals that closed million-dollar homes faster than you could say, escrow. Dinners turned into brag fests, Caitlin recounting a miracle diagnosis, Ethan toasting to his latest commission. My fascination with finance? It was the punchline, like that time in high school when I warned Dad about a shady investment tip from his golf buddy. "Dad, those returns look too good to be true, probably a pyramid scheme," I'd said, showing him the math on a napkin. He laughed it off, patted my head like I was cute for trying. "Stick to your homework, Lauren. This is grown-up stuff." Turned out I was right. He lost a couple grand, but no one mentioned it again. Instead, Mom steered me toward stable jobs. Be a teacher, like me, something that helps people directly. Dad nodded along. Or nursing, like Aunt Sue. Computers? That's a fad. That dismissal stung deep, like a splinter you can't dig out. I'd lie awake nights, replaying those moments, wondering why my brain for patterns and puzzles wasn't enough. It fueled me, though. I buried myself in math clubs, aced AP Calc, and got into UT Austin on a partial scholarship. College was my escape. Late nights in the library, cracking complex equations that felt like solving mysteries. But even there, the family shadow loomed. At holidays, Caitlin's med school stories trumped my accounting internships. "Oh, Lauren's still playing with numbers," Mom would say, her smile tight, like she was humoring a quirky hobby. One incident sticks out, a minor thing that snowballed in my mind. It was junior year, Thanksgiving break. Dad was grumbling about his store's taxes, papers scattered on the kitchen table. I offered to look them over, spotted a deduction he'd missed that could have saved him hundreds. "See, right here, you can claim this equipment as depreciable." He waved me off. "Nah, my accountant's got it. Don't worry your pretty head." Ethan chimed in, smirking. "Yeah, sis, leave the big stuff to the pros." I bit my tongue, but inside, it burned. Why bother sharing when they treated my insights like kid stuff? That night, I vowed to prove them wrong, not out of spite, but to carve my own space. Little did I know, that chip on my shoulder would lead me straight to the IRS, where numbers weren't just games. They were weapons against crooks who thought they could game the system. As I sit here now, thinking back, those early slights were like seeds, growing into the tangled mess that exploded at that dinner. But what came next? It wasn't just about family drama anymore. It was federal, and it was coming for all of us. I was 16 when I first realized numbers could tell stories nobody else saw. Back then, sitting in my childhood bedroom in Plano, Texas, I'd balance my allowance like it was a corporate ledger, catching every penny's trail. That spark carried me to UT Austin, where I majored in accounting, not because it was sexy, but because it felt like cracking codes in a world full of chaos. College was my proving ground. Late nights in the library, fueled by bad coffee and ambition, I dove into financial datasets like they were novels, spotting patterns others missed. My stats professor, Dr. Evelyn Carter, saw something in me. She was a no-nonsense woman, gray hair pulled tight, eyes sharp as a hawk. "Lauren, you've got a gift for seeing through the noise," she told me after I aced her forensic accounting seminar. "Don't let anyone dim that light." Her words stuck, especially when I presented a paper on offshore tax evasion at a finance conference in Dallas my senior year. I was nervous, palms sweaty, standing in a room full of suits twice my age. But when I broke down how shell companies hide dirty money, a recruiter from the IRS approached me. "We need people like you," he said, handing me his card. That moment felt like a door swinging open, one my family never even noticed. The IRS wasn't just a job, it was a mission. After 6 months of training in DC, I landed in the Criminal Investigation Division, specializing in tax fraud. My first big case was tracking a syndicate called Silver Creek, a slick operation laundering millions through fake investments, stock certificates, real estate, you name it. They were ghosts, moving money across borders faster than we could trace. My team's latest play was planting $8 million in marked stock certificates as bait, each tagged with digital trackers embedded in a secure external drive I sometimes brought home to analyze after hours. It looked like a plain USB stick, but it was locked down with encryption tighter than Fort Knox. Without my access codes, it was just a useless hunk of plastic. I'd sit in my apartment, laptop humming, cross-referencing transactions while the city slept, piecing together Silver Creek's web. It was exhilarating, like hunting a predator in the dark. But try explaining that to my family. Sunday dinners at my parents' house were like stepping into a time warp. Same floral tablecloth, same pot roast, same old script. I'd show up, bottle of wine in hand, bracing for the inevitable. Mom, Diane, would fuss over Caitlin's latest patient story, her pediatrician halo glowing brighter with every tale. Ethan, my real estate lawyer brother, would toss out some big closing figure, grinning like he'd just sold the moon. Me? I'd try slipping in a work win, maybe how I'd flagged a $2 million discrepancy in a Silver Creek shell company. "That's nice, honey," Mom would say, her tone dripping with that polite pity reserved for kids who try too hard. Dad, Robert, would jump in with, "So, you just double-check other people's math all day?" Cue the laughs. Ethan once quipped, "What, you're out there busting lemonade stands for tax evasion?" Caitlin smirked, adding, "Bet you've got a killer spreadsheet for that." I'd force a smile, my fork digging into the potatoes a little too hard, the sting of their dismissal settling deep. It wasn't just the jokes. It was the way they assumed my work was small time, like I was some glorified bookkeeper instead of a federal agent chasing criminals who could tank economies. One dinner, about a year ago, I tried to explain. "I'm leading a case that could save the government millions," I said, voice steady. "We're tracking a syndicate moving dirty money through fake stocks." Dad raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Sounds like a lot of paperwork for not much payoff." Mom patted my hand. It's great you're helping out, Lauren, but don't you ever want something bigger? Bigger. Like my job wasn't saving families from fraud or protecting the system they all relied on. I stopped sharing after that. Why bother when they'd already written me off? What gnawed at me most was a memory from 2 years back. A dinner where I'd caught a whiff of something off. Dad was griping about a new client at his hardware store. Some guy named Greg who'd been asking weirdly specific questions about our family's finances. He wanted to know if you still worked at that tax place, Dad said, shrugging it off. I pressed him. Had Greg mentioned investments, stocks, anything odd? Nah, just small talk, Dad said, but I filed it away. Greg's name had popped up in a low-level Silver Creek file months later, a minor player in their network. I'd flagged it, but with no hard evidence, it was just a hunch. Now, thinking back, that moment felt like a warning I'd ignored. Had I been too careless, leaving that drive at Mom's? Or was something bigger already circling us? Dr. Carter's voice echoed in my head sometimes, especially on those long nights at my desk. You see what others don't, Lauren. Trust that. I did trust it, but it was lonely. My family didn't see the woman who'd outsmarted criminals. They saw a kid playing with numbers. As I drove to the next Sunday dinner, the weight of that drive in my purse felt heavier than ever. I had no idea it was about to blow our world apart. The drive to my parents' house that Sunday felt heavier than usual, like the air itself was pressing down on me. My purse sat on the passenger seat, the secure drive tucked inside, its weight a reminder of the Silver Creek case that had kept me up nights. Dr. Carter's words, "Trust that," looped in my head, but so did Dad's shrug about that guy Greg, the one who'd asked too many questions. I shook it off, gripping the steering wheel as I pulled into the familiar Plano cul-de-sac. The Whitaker house looked the same as always, red brick, neatly trimmed hedges, Mom's wind chimes tinkling in the breeze. I grabbed the bottle of Merlot I'd brought, a peace offering for the inevitable family gauntlet, and braced myself. Another dinner, another round of playing the invisible sibling. Inside, the smell of Mom's pot roast hit me like a warm hug, but the comfort stopped there. The hallway was lined with framed photos, Caitlin in her white coat, Ethan shaking hands at some fancy closing, and me stuck in a faded snapshot from a cousin's wedding, like I hadn't done anything worth framing since. "Lauren, you're here!" Mom called from the kitchen, her voice bright but distracted. "Caitlin and Ethan are in the living room." I found them sprawled on the couch, Caitlin scrolling through her phone, Ethan nursing a beer. "Hey, sis," Ethan said, barely looking up. "Ready for another thrilling night of family bonding?" Caitlin smirked, not even glancing over. I swallowed the urge to snap back and set the wine on the counter. "Brought this," I said, hoping for a neutral start. Mom beamed, wiping her hands on her apron. "Oh, you're sweet. Go sit. Dinner's almost ready." I took my usual spot at the dining table, the same one we'd used since I was a kid, its scratches telling stories of 1,000 meals. Dad was already there, flipping through a stack of invoices from his hardware store, muttering about suppliers. "Hey, Dad," I ventured, feeling a spark of optimism. "I closed a big case last month, tracked a shell company moving dirty money. Saved the feds a couple million," he grunted, not looking up. "Good for you, kiddo. Sounds like a lot of number crunching." My chest tightened, but I pushed on. "It's more than that. We're taking down criminals who—" Mom cut in, carrying a steaming dish to the table. "All right, everyone, let's eat. Caitlin, tell us about that new clinic you're working with." Caitlin launched into a story about a kid she'd diagnosed with some rare condition, her voice glowing with pride. Ethan jumped in next, bragging about a waterfront property he'd flipped for a 6-figure profit. I poked at my roast, the familiar ache of being sidelined settling in. I tried again, voice steady. "My team's been tracking this syndicate, Silver Creek. They launder money through fake investments. It's high stakes, lives on the line stuff." Ethan snorted, cutting a piece of meat. What, like catching someone who didn't report their eBay side hustle? Caitlin laughed, shaking her head. Bet you've got a spreadsheet for every tax dodger in Texas? Mom smiled, that same pitying look she'd given me since high school. It's nice you're keeping busy, Lauren. Busy, like I was filling out forms for fun. My fork clinked against the plate, louder than I meant. Years of this, jokes, brush-offs, the assumption my work was just paper pushing, bubbled up like a pot about to boil over. I'd spent my career outsmarting crooks who could ruin lives, but to them, I was still the kid who liked math too much. I bit my lip, staring at the tablecloth, the floral pattern blurring as I fought the urge to lay into them. Mom changed the subject, oblivious. Oh, before I forget, I was cleaning out the garage last week. You wouldn't believe the junk we've been holding on to, Dad chuckled, leaning back. Your mom's on a tear. Thinks she's the next Marie Kondo. Mom waved a hand, grinning. I got rid of some old stuff. Broken tools, that ancient radio, and those stock certificates from your dad's old investment club. My fork froze midair. The room seemed to tilt. What stock certificates? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Mom blinked, surprised. You know, those papers in that little locked case? They were just collecting dust. I sold them for $5,000, cash. Easy money. She pulled a stack of bills from her purse, fanning them like a game show prize. Ethan whistled. Nice one, Mom. Caitlin nodded, impressed. Dad grinned, like he'd masterminded it. My heart slammed against my ribs. Mom, were those certificates in a case with IRS tags, black with a digital lock? She frowned, setting down her glass. Well, yeah, but it was just sitting there forever. I figured you forgot about it. Forgot about it. My secure drive, the one with $8 million in marked assets to trap Silver Creek, was gone. That's my work, Mom, I said, my voice tight as a wire. It's not just papers. It's evidence in a federal investigation. Dad scoffed, cutting in. Come on, Lauren, don't be dramatic. They're just old stocks. Ethan leaned forward, smirking. What, you left top secret stuff in the garage? Real smooth, sis. Caitlin's eyebrows shot up. Wait, you're saying this is a big deal? Yes, I snapped, standing so fast my chair scraped the floor. Who'd you sell them to, Mom? Exact details now. The table went silent, forks hovering, eyes wide. Mom crossed her arms, defensive. It was Mike, from that pawn shop downtown. He said collectors pay good money for old financial stuff. Why are you acting like this? My fingers dug into my purse, feeling for my phone. Because those certificates are bait for a syndicate laundering millions. You just handed them to a stranger. Dad's face hardened. Now hold on. If it's so important, why'd you leave it here? It was locked, I shot back. Federal tags, encryption, someone tampered with it. Caitlin's voice was small. Are we in trouble? I don't know, I said, already scrolling for my supervisor's number. But this is a breach. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Lauren, I didn't know. I stepped toward the door, my pulse racing like I'd sprinted a mile. As I hit dial, the weight of what was coming crashed down. My family had no idea the storm I was about to unleash. I stood on the front porch of my parents' house, the Plano night air cool against my flushed skin. My phone pressed to my ear as it rang for Director Patel. My family's voices, Mom's stammered excuses, Dad's gruff disbelief, faded behind the closed door. But the weight of their cluelessness pressed harder than ever. The secure drive, my bait for Silver Creek's money laundering scheme, was out there, sold for pocket change to some pawn shop guy named Mike. My thumb hovered over my IRS badge in my purse, a grounding ritual, as Patel's voice crackled through. Whitaker, this better be good. I took a breath, steadying myself. Category 1 breach, sir. The Silver Creek bait, $8 million in marked stock certificates was sold by my mother to a local pawn shop. Cash deal, 24 hours ago. Silence, then Patel's tone turned sharp as a blade. How the hell did this happen? I explained. Mom's garage cleanout, the locked case with IRS tags, Mike's suspiciously timed offer. I'm at my parents' house now, I said. The buyer's Mike Delgado, runs a shop downtown. I need a team here, stat. Patel didn't hesitate. Lock it down. Agents en route. Do not let anyone leave. Back inside, the dining room was a frozen tableau. Half-eaten pot roast, wine glasses sweating, my family staring like I'd grown a second head. Mom's hands twisted her napkin. Lauren, what's going on? The IRS is coming, I said, voice clipped. This house is now a federal crime scene. No one moves until they get here. Dad slammed his fist on the table, making the plates jump. This is ridiculous. It's just some old papers. Caitlin, pale, whispered. Are we in trouble? Ethan's usual smirk was gone, his eyes darting between us. You're blowing this out of proportion, right? I met his gaze, unblinking. Those certificates are tied to a syndicate that launders millions. If they're in the wrong hands, we're all exposed. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest. I didn't know, Lauren. No, I swear. I wanted to soften, to tell her it wasn't her fault, but the stakes were too high for coddling. Just tell me everything about Mike, I said. Every word he said, every move he made. Before Mom could answer, headlights swept across the windows. Car doors slammed outside, followed by the sharp rap of knuckles on the door. I opened it to Agent Torres, my team lead, his dark eyes scanning the scene like a hawk. Behind him, 6 agents in IRS windbreakers fanned out, carrying duffels of gear. Whitaker, Torres said, voice low. Situation? Breach confirmed, I replied. Certificate sold to Mike Delgado, pawnshop owner. Mom's got details. Torres nodded, signaling his team. Within minutes, Mom's dining room, where we'd celebrated birthdays and argued over politics, was a command center. Agent Kim, our tech specialist, set up a laptop on the antique table, her fingers flying as she synced with our servers. Agent Ruiz, a wiry guy with a Boston accent and a coffee addiction, started taping off the hallway. Agent Harper, older and gruff, with a permanent scowl, took point on questioning. Mrs. Whitaker, he said, notepad out. Walk us through the sale. Don't skip anything. Mom sat rigid in her armchair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. It was last Tuesday, she started, voice shaky. Mike came by, said he was looking for vintage financial stuff, stocks, bonds, that sort of thing. Said collectors pay top dollar. He offered $5,000 cash for the case in the garage. I caught Torres's glance. His jaw tightened. He was specific about the case? I asked. Mom nodded. Said he'd heard we had some old papers from Robert's investment club. I thought it was just junk. Dad bristled. I told you, Diane, we should have checked with Lauren first. Mom's eyes welled up. You didn't say anything when I showed you the money. Their bickering grated, but I tuned it out, focusing on Kim's screen. She was pulling data on Delgado's shop. Got a hit, she said, voice tense. Properties leased to a shell company. Same structure Silver Creek uses for their fronts. My stomach twisted. This wasn't some random garage sale score. Someone had targeted us. Run Delgado through every database, I told Torres. Criminal, financial, the works. Harper leaned in, his scowl deepening as he questioned Mom further. Did he ask about Lauren? Her job? Her visits? Mom hesitated, then nodded. He asked if she still worked for the government, said he was just making conversation. I froze. That was no coincidence. Silver Creek had been sniffing around, and Mom had handed them the keys. Ethan stood, pacing. Wait, you're saying this guy's some kind of criminal mastermind? Over some papers? Caitlin grabbed his arm, her doctor's calm cracking. Ethan, stop. This is serious. Dad's face was red now, his denial shifting to fear. Lauren, what have you dragged us into? I ignored the jab, my mind racing. The drive's encryption was top tier, but Silver Creek wasn't amateur hour. If they'd cracked it, those $8 million in marked assets could be redirected in hours, vanishing into their network. Kim, any traffic on the trackers? I asked. She shook her head, still typing. Nothing yet. Either they haven't tried accessing it, or they've isolated it. Torres crouched beside me, voice low. This feels like a setup. Delgado knew exactly what to ask for. I nodded, my pulse hammering. Check the garage for tampering marks. If they got to the case, they had eyes on this house. Ruiz grabbed a flashlight and headed out, his boots heavy on the hardwood. Mom's voice broke through, trembling. Lauren, are we safe? I wanted to lie, to say yes, but the truth was, I didn't know. Not yet. As agents swept the house, radios crackling with updates, I caught Dad staring at me. Not with his usual skepticism, but with something new, like he was seeing me for the first time. The girl who crunched numbers was now calling shots in a federal operation, but the moment was cut short by Kim's urgent voice. Whitaker, we've got a ping, data traffic 3 miles out. Someone's probing the drive. My heart skipped. This was it. The first move in a game we couldn't afford to lose. Kim's words hung in the air like a gunshot. Whitaker, we've got a ping. Data traffic 3 miles out. Someone's probing the drive. I leaned over her laptop in Mom's dining room. Now a makeshift IRS command center, the glow of the screen casting shadows across my parents' floral tablecloth. The room buzzed with tension, agents murmuring into radios, Ruiz back from the garage, wiping sweat off his brow. My family sat huddled in the kitchen, their whispers a low hum against the crackle of comms. The secure drive, my $8 million bait for Silver Creek, was out there, and someone was already trying to crack it. My pulse thrummed in my ears as I nodded to Kim. Lock it down. Activate remote protocols. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, triggering the encryption's failsafes. They're hitting sectors 2 through 5, she said, voice tight. Those held the tracking codes for the marked assets. If Silver Creek broke through, they'd redirect the funds and vanish into the ether. Countermeasures holding, Kim reported, but her screen flashed red. A warning. They're using custom malware. This isn't some pawn shop amateur. I exchanged a glance with Torres, his dark eyes narrowing. This was no accident, I said, the realization sinking in like a stone. They targeted my family. Torres nodded, his voice low. Delgado's shop is a front. That shell company lease, it's got Silver Creek's fingerprints all over it. My stomach churned. Mom's casual sale wasn't just a mistake. It was a setup, and I'd brought the danger home by storing that drive here. Guilt clawed at me, sharp and cold. I'd been so careful. Locked case, IRS tags, rotating locations, but I'd underestimated how far Silver Creek's reach went. Had they been watching me drop off the drive? Watching us? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on the screen. How long till they crack it? I asked Kim. 30 minutes, maybe less, she said, her usual calm fraying. Their code's adapting fast. Torres crouched beside us, his windbreaker rustling. We need a perimeter sweep around the house. If they knew about the case, they've had eyes on this place. Ruiz grabbed his gear, signaling another agent to check the backyard. I turned to my family, their faces pale under the kitchen light. Mom clutched her coffee mug like a lifeline, Dad's hands fidgeting with his phone, Caitlin and Ethan whispering furiously. I need you all in here, I called, my voice sharper than intended. They shuffled in, eyes wide, like kids caught in a storm they didn't understand. Mom, Dad, I started. Has anyone else been asking about me? My work? My visits? Dad frowned, still defensive. You're saying we're being watched? That's insane, Lauren. But Mom's face shifted, a flicker of worry. There was something, she said, hesitant. Your dad put this tracking app on our phones a few months back. Said it was for safety, like if we got lost hiking. My blood ran cold. A tracking app? On all our phones? She nodded, pulling out her phone to show me. It's called Family Safe. Your cousin Jenna's boyfriend, Travis, recommended it. Said it was top-notch. Travis. The name hit like a punch. Jenna's boyfriend, the wealth management guy whose firm had pinged our radar for sketchy transactions. I grabbed my phone, checking the app list. There it was. Family Safe, installed last month after Dad insisted. Is it on my phone too? I asked, already knowing the answer. Mom's nod confirmed it. Kim, scan my device, I said, handing it over. She plugged it into her laptop, her expression darkening. It's pinging a server every 15 minutes. Location data, call logs, the works. I clenched my fists, the betrayal sinking in. They've been tracking me. That's how they knew about the drive. Ethan stood, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Wait, you're saying Travis is involved? Jenna's Travis? His voice cracked, disbelief warring with fear. He's family, Lauren. He wouldn't— We don't know that, I cut in. His firm's linked to Silver Creek's network. Small time, but it's there. Caitlin's hand flew to her mouth. You think he used us? Dad shook his head, stubborn. This is nuts. Travis is a good kid. You're jumping to conclusions. I wanted to believe him, to think it was just Ethan, or even Dad's buddy Greg from years back. Someone less close. Ethan had been asking about my work lately too. Casual questions about IRS cases. The kind that felt off, but I'd brushed aside. Was he digging for something? No, that was crazy. He was my brother, not a criminal. But Travis? His name kept circling back. We need to check the app's source, I told Kim. Trace where the data's going. She nodded, already diving into the code. Torres pulled me aside. If this app's feeding Silver Creek, they've had real-time data on you. Your movements, your visits here. My gut twisted tighter. I'd been so focused on the drive, I hadn't seen the bigger game. This wasn't just a grab. It was a hunt, and my family was in the crosshairs. As Kim's screen lit up with new data, my phone buzzed in my hand, an encrypted alert from our Dallas field office. I opened it, my breath catching as I read the subject line. Urgent, Delgado activity spike. Whatever Silver Creek was planning, they weren't waiting around. The encrypted alert on my phone burned like a warning flare. Urgent, Delgado activity spike. I stood in my parents' dining room, now an IRS command post, the glow of Kim's laptop casting jagged shadows across Mom's antique table. The ping from Silver Creek's attempt to crack the secure drive, my $8 million bait, was 3 miles away at Mike Delgado's pawn shop. My family's whispers from the kitchen, their fear palpable, faded as Agent Torres leaned in, his voice a low growl. We've got a window, Whitaker. SWAT's ready to move. My heart pounded, but I forced my focus to the mission. Green light it, I said, slipping into the command mode I'd honed over years of chasing fraudsters. Dual approach. Team 1 hits the front with flashbangs, Team 2 through the back. Priority is the certificates, intact. Torres nodded, relaying orders through his comm. Kim's screen flashed again, her voice tight. They're hammering the encryption. We've got 20 minutes tops. Every second was a ticking bomb, and I was calling the shots in a house that had never taken me seriously. As agents checked their gear, I felt the weight of my badge, still in my purse, grounding me. But doubt crept in, sharp and unyielding. Had I missed something bigger? Travis's name, his tracking app, the way he'd wormed into our family. It all pointed to a setup, but what if I was wrong? What if Ethan's odd questions about my work weren't just sibling ribbing? I shook it off. No time for second guessing. Torres handed me a comms earpiece. Your lead, Whitaker. Your case. Your call. I nodded, ignoring the knot in my gut. Leading a raid while my family watched felt like walking a tightrope with no net. Mom's face, pale and drawn, flashed in my mind. Her casual sale had sparked this, but I'd left the drive here. This was on me, too. Outside, the Plano night was quiet, streetlights buzzing softly. Neighbors had been cleared out, told it was a gas leak. Ruiz's team swept the perimeter, their flashlights cutting through the dark. Kim stayed glued to her laptop, tracking the drive's signal. They're still probing, she said, her fingers a blur. If they crack it now, we lose the markers. I clenched my jaw, picturing Silver Creek siphoning off millions while we scrambled. Torres's radio crackled. Teams in position, front and back entries clear. I took a breath, my voice steady over the comm. Execute in 3, 2, 1, go! The line erupted. Flashbangs popped. Glass shattered. Shouts echoed. Front clear, Team 1 reported. Back office secure, came Team 2. My pulse spiked as Kim's screen flickered, the encryption holding by a thread. They're fighting back, she muttered. Sophisticated countercode. Through the comms, chaos unfolded. 3 heat signatures inside, Team 1's leader barked. One's at a terminal. My heart lurched. Isolate that device, I ordered. Kim hit the kill switch, her fingers flying to freeze the drive's data. Got it, she said, but her voice wavered. They almost breached Sector 5. Seconds dragged like hours, the dining room air thick with tension. Dad stood in the doorway, his usual gruffness replaced by wide-eyed silence. Caitlin gripped Ethan's arm, both frozen, watching me like I was a stranger. Then the comm crackled again. Suspects detained, device secured, certificates in hand. Relief hit, but it was short-lived. 2 suspects, Team 2 reported. Mike Delgado and an associate. No data sent, but they're spooked. Torres and I exchanged a look as agents hauled the suspects back to the house. Delgado, a wiry guy with a cheap suit and a nervous tic, was cuffed and sweating. His associate, a younger guy with a buzz cut and a sneer, stayed silent. Harper, the gruff agent, started the interrogation in the living room, Mom's coffee table now a makeshift desk. Delgado, talk, Harper snapped. Who hired you to grab those certificates? Delgado's eyes darted, landing on me for a split second before dropping. Just a side gig, he mumbled. Some guy paid me to pick up financial papers from the Whitaker's place. Said it was for a collector. My blood ran cold. What guy? I pressed, stepping closer. Name. Now. Delgado swallowed hard. Didn't get a name. Met him at a bar, cash up front. He knew exactly where to look. Torres leaned in, his voice like steel. You're telling me you didn't know those papers were IRS property? Delgado shrank back. I thought they were old stocks. He said the family wouldn't miss 'em. I caught Mom's gasp from the kitchen, her denial crumbling. Ethan muttered, This is insane. But Caitlin shushed him, her eyes locked on me. I turned to Harper. Check Delgado's phone. Call logs, texts, everything. Kim was already on it, plugging the device into her rig. Encrypted messages, she said. Recent ones, routed through a VPN. Same setup Silver Creek uses. My mind raced. Someone had fed Delgado intel. Someone close enough to know about the drive. Travis's face flashed again, but so did Ethan's odd questions, his sudden interest in my cases. Could he have slipped, even accidentally? Harper pressed Delgado harder. This guy at the bar. Describe him. Delgado hesitated, then muttered. tall, slick suit, maybe 30s. Said he was connected to the family. My stomach dropped. That fit Travis to a T. But before I could push further, Kim's laptop pinged again, a new alert flashing. "Whitaker?" she said, voice low. "The drive's secure, but there's a second signal. Someone else is watching." The room spun for a moment. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Kim's alert hung in the air like a storm warning. A second signal, someone else watching. The dining room, still a chaotic IRS command center, felt like it was closing in. Delgado's cuffed hands twitched as Harper grilled him, but my mind was on that signal. Silver Creek wasn't done with us. My family's eyes burned into me from the kitchen, their fear now laced with something else, like they were seeing the real stakes of my world for the first time. I wanted to dig deeper, to chase that signal, but my phone buzzed with a new message from Director Patel. "Report to Dallas HQ, 0700 tomorrow, Internal Affairs." My stomach sank. The raid had saved the certificates, but the breach was still my mess. Torres caught my look, his nod grim. "We'll handle Delgado," he said. "You prep for IA." I left Mom's house as dawn broke, the Plano sky gray and heavy, matching the dread pooling in my gut. I'd led the raid like a pro, but now I was the one under the microscope. The IRS Dallas office was a sterile fortress, glass walls, buzzing fluorescents, and the faint smell of burnt coffee. At 7 a.m., I sat in a conference room across from Agent Harper, now in his internal affairs hat, and two suits I didn't recognize. Their badges read Agents Callahan and Diaz, both stone-faced, files stacked like a judgment day. Harper's scowl was deeper than last night, his pen tapping the table. "Whitaker, explain why sensitive materials were stored at an unsecured location." I straightened, my voice steadied despite the sweat prickling my neck. The drive was in a locked case with IRS tags, stored per rotation protocol. 3 locations, all secure. My parents' garage was one. The case was tampered with, using methods tied to Silver Creek. Callahan, a wiry woman with sharp eyes, cut in. "Yet your mother accessed it and sold it. That's a failure of oversight." I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to snap. "The tags were intact when I last checked. Someone bypassed them, professionally." Diaz, older, with a voice like gravel, leaned forward. "You're saying this syndicate targeted your family, but you didn't see it coming? You're CI, Whitaker. That's your job." The accusation hit like a slap. I'd tracked Silver Creek for years, saved millions in assets, but one slip and I was the screw-up. "I followed protocol," I said, my tone clipped. "The drive was encrypted, inaccessible without my codes. The breach wasn't negligence. It was a calculated hit." Harper's pen stopped. "Then why was it in your parents' garage at all?" I swallowed, the memory of a past case flashing through my mind. 2 years ago, I'd led a sting in Houston, nailing a tax evasion ring by planting decoy assets in a warehouse. It was textbook like this op, until Mom's clean-out. "It was secure," I repeated, but even I heard the edge of doubt in my voice. Patel, on video call from D.C., broke the tension. "The case showed signs of advanced tampering. Whitaker's protocols were sound, but the breach raises questions." Questions? That was code for, "You're on thin ice." After 2 hours of grilling, dates, times, procedures, they dismissed me. "You're on administrative leave, effective immediately," Harper said. "Turn in your badge and laptop." I handed them over, my hands steady but my chest hollow. The walk to my car felt like a perp walk, eyes of colleagues burning into me. 6 years at the IRS, countless wins, and now I was sidelined, a liability. Driving back to my apartment in downtown Dallas, the city blurred past. Neon signs, morning traffic, a world that didn't care I'd just lost my edge. My career wasn't just numbers. It was who I was. Without it, What did I have? Mom's pitying looks? Ethan's smug jabs? The sting of being the boring Whitaker hit harder than ever. I'd outsmarted criminals, but I couldn't make my family see me. And now, with Silver Creek still out there, I'd endangered them all. My apartment was a mess from the IRS sweep. Drawers ajar, books tilted, like they'd torn through my life for answers. I dropped my keys on the counter, the silence deafening. Then I noticed it. The photo frame by my couch, a gift from Caitlin last Christmas, was off by an inch. I'd always been paranoid about placement. Call it a CI habit. I pried it open, my breath catching as a tiny black device fell out, no bigger than a dime. A listening bug, professional grade, not IRS. My skin crawled as I checked the room, finding another in a lamp base. Silver Creek had been in my home, listening, waiting. My suspension didn't matter. They were still playing the game. I grabbed my phone, heart racing, and scrolled for Riley's number. Whatever came next, I wasn't sitting this one out. My apartment felt like a crime scene, the air thick with violation, as I held the tiny listening bug between my fingers, its black shell glinting under the lamp. Silver Creek had been here, in my home, listening to every word, every move. The IRS had taken my badge, sidelined me. But this wasn't over, not by a long shot. My pulse thrummed as I scrolled for Riley's number, my old colleague turned cybersecurity freelancer who never played by the rules. He'd know how to dig without leaving a trail. I hit call, my voice low as I paced the hardwood floor. Riley, it's Lauren. I need a favor, off the books. His gravelly laugh came through. Whitaker, you in deep already? What's the mess? I glanced at the bug, my stomach twisting. My place is wired. Silver Creek's got ears on me, and I'm on leave. I need gear and answers fast. He didn't hesitate. Meet me at Joe's Diner, 10 p.m., bring coffee. It's gonna be a long night. Joe's was a 24-hour joint on the edge of Dallas, all neon lights and sticky booths, the kind of place where nobody asked questions. Riley was already there, slouched in a corner booth, his hoodie and 5 o'clock shadow screaming, I don't sleep. He'd left the IRS 2 years ago after a case went sideways. Too many rules, he'd said, for catching the real bad guys. You look like hell, he said as I slid in, pushing a mug of black coffee my way. Suspension's a bitch, huh? I smirked, despite myself. You'd know. Found bugs in my place. Pro grade, not ours. His eyes lit up, the thrill of the chase kicking in. Silver Creek's got balls. What do you need? I leaned in, voice low. A clean sweep kit, untraceable laptop, and access to your gray area databases. I'm hunting whoever set this up. Riley grinned, sliding a duffel under the table. Got your kit? Laptop's in my car, burner, no serials. Databases? That's trickier, but I've got a back door to some offshore servers. What's the target? Travis Wheeler, I said, the name bitter on my tongue. Jenna's boyfriend, works at a wealth management firm we flagged for Silver Creek ties. He pushed a tracking app on my family's phones. Riley whistled. Family betrayal? That's cold. I shook my head, doubt creeping in. Maybe. Ethan's been asking weird questions about my work, too. Case details, stuff he never cared about before. Riley raised an eyebrow. Your brother? Nah, he's too straight edge for that. I wanted to agree, but Ethan's recent curiosity, those late-night texts about IRS procedures, nagged at me. Was he just nosy, or was he slipping info to someone? I pushed the thought down. Travis was the better bet, his firm, his app, his access to our family. Focus on Travis for now, I said, but pull everything you can. Back at my apartment, I swept every inch with Riley's gear, a handheld scanner that hummed softly, picking up frequencies the bugs were using. My hands shook as I found 2 more, one in the kitchen vent, another behind my TV. Each one felt like a violation, like Silver Creek had been breathing down my neck for weeks. I bagged them in a Faraday pouch, cutting their signals. The burner laptop booted up, Riley's custom software already loaded. I dove into his gray area databases, offshore financial records, encrypted chat logs, the kind of stuff the IRS would frown on. My screen filled with hits on Travis's firm, Pinnacle Wealth. Shell companies, murky transfers, and a string of aliases linked to Silver Creek's network. One name kept popping up, T. Wheeler, tied to a burner phone that had pinged near my parents' house last month. My heart sank. It was him. But then, a curveball. Ethan's name appeared in a chat log, a single mention. Whitaker contact confirmed. My breath caught. Was Ethan involved, even tangentially? I shook my head, refusing to believe it. He was my brother, not a traitor. Still, the doubt lingered, a splinter in my mind. I'd crossed lines tonight, using Riley's shady access, working without a badge. The IRS would have my head if they knew, but I couldn't stop. Not with Silver Creek this close. My phone buzzed. Jenna, of all people. Family barbecue this weekend at Mom's. Her text read. Travis is coming. You in? My pulse spiked. Travis didn't know I was onto him. This was my chance to turn the tables, but one wrong move could tip him off. Jenna's text glowed on my phone screen, the words, Travis is coming, like a fuse waiting to be lit. I sat in my bug-swept apartment, the burner laptop still open to Riley's gray area databases, Travis's name tied to Silver Creek's network staring back at me. The faint hum of Dallas traffic filtered through my window, but inside, my mind was a war room. Ethan's name in that chat log, Whitaker contact confirmed, still gnawed at me, but I pushed it down. Travis was the real threat, and the barbecue was my shot to catch him off guard. I typed back to Jenna, keeping it light. Count me in, bringing my famous potato salad. My fingers lingered over the send button, heart racing. This wasn't just a family cookout, it was a trap, and I was setting the bait. 2 days later, I pulled into my parents' driveway, the familiar Plano cul-de-sac now tinged with menace. The IRS had swept the house again, confirming no bugs, but the air felt charged, like a storm brewing. Inside, Mom had called a family meeting, breaking her sacred dining table-only rule. We gathered in the living room, the couch sagging under the weight of our tension. Mom sat in her armchair, hands twisting a dish towel, Dad beside her, his face a mix of guilt and defiance. Caitlin perched on the ottoman, her doctor's calm fraying, while Ethan leaned against the wall, arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the tick of the old mantel clock. Lauren, Mom started, her voice small. The IRS came back yesterday, took the security cameras Travis installed. What's happening? I took a breath, choosing my words like stepping through a minefield. Travis is under investigation, I said. His firm's linked to Silver Creek, the syndicate I've been tracking. That Family Safe app he pushed on us, it was feeding them our locations, maybe more. Dad's face reddened. Jenna's boyfriend? You're saying he's a criminal? His voice rose, disbelief warring with anger. He's been to our house, eaten our food! Caitlin cut in, her voice sharp. Lauren, are you sure? Jenna's head over heels for him. I nodded, keeping my tone even. His name's in their records, offshore accounts, burner phones, it's not a coincidence. Ethan finally spoke, his voice low but biting. So you dragged us into your spy game, and now we're all targets? Real nice, sis. The jab hit hard, his recent questions about my work flashing in my mind. Was he blaming me to deflect? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on Mom's wide eyes. I didn't drag you in, I said. They used you to get to me. Mom's hands trembled. I sold those papers, Lauren. If I'd known. Her voice broke, and I felt a pang of guilt, but I couldn't soften now. You were played, Mom. They knew exactly what to say. Dad slammed a fist into his palm. This is insane. Why didn't you tell us your work was this dangerous? His words stung, years of their dismissal bubbling up. I tried, I snapped. Every dinner, I told you what I do, tracking criminals, saving millions. You called it paperwork. The room went quiet, their faces a mix of shame and shock. Caitlin reached for Mom's hand. We didn't get it, okay? But now what? Are we safe? I hesitated, the truth heavy. Not until we stop them. Jenna's barbecue invite hung over us like a deadline. It's this weekend, I said. Travis will be there, thinking he's in the clear. We can use that. Ethan scoffed. What, you're gonna arrest him at a cookout? His tone dripped with skepticism, but his eyes flickered. Nervous, maybe? Not arrest, I said. Observe. If he's working for Silver Creek, he'll slip up. Mom shook her head, voice rising. You're putting us all at risk. Dad nodded, his anger now aimed at me. This isn't a game, Lauren. You're on leave, right? Let the IRS handle it. Their words cut deep, but I held firm. The IRS doesn't know Travis like I do. I can get him to talk. Caitlin frowned. And if he's dangerous? I didn't answer, the possibility too real. Later, alone in Dad's study, I called Torres on a burner phone Riley had slipped me. Torres, it's Whitaker. I whispered, the house dark around me. I've got a lead on Travis Wheeler. He'll be at my parents' barbecue this weekend. Torres's voice was cautious. You're on leave, Lauren. Don't go rogue. I gripped the phone tighter. I'm not, just keep a team on standby. If he's Silver Creek, he'll move soon. Torres paused, then sighed. I can't authorize anything, but I'll have eyes nearby. Be careful. I hung up, my plan forming. Slip a counter-surveillance pendant to Mom, watch Travis like a hawk, and bait him into revealing himself. The barbecue would be a chessboard, and I was playing for keeps. But as I stepped into the hall, the creak of a floorboard upstairs stopped me cold. Was someone listening, or was paranoia getting the better of me? The creak of that upstairs floorboard lingered in my mind as I drove to my parents' house for the barbecue, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the Plano cul-de-sac. My hands gripped the steering wheel, the counter-surveillance pendant, a sleek silver locket rigged by Riley to jam signals, tucked in my purse alongside a concealed voice recorder. Travis was coming, and I was ready to catch him slipping. The family meeting had left everyone rattled, their accusations and doubts still stinging, but this wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. Silver Creek had played us, and I needed answers. I parked behind Ethan's sleek Audi, the backyard already alive with the sizzle of burgers and the hum of small talk. My potato salad bowl felt like a flimsy cover for the real mission. I slipped the pendant to Mom as I hugged her, whispering, "Wear this. Don't ask why." Her eyes widened, but she nodded, pinning it to her blouse. The backyard was a familiar scene. String lights twinkling, Dad flipping burgers at the grill, Caitlin chatting with cousins by the picnic table. Jenna was there, laughing too loud, her arm looped through Travis's. He looked the part of the perfect boyfriend, polished button-down, easy smile, handing out beers like he owned the place. But his eyes scanned the crowd, lingering a beat too long on me. I forced a smile, joining the mingle, my recorder on, catching snippets of chatter. Ethan sidled up, his usual smirk replaced by a tense frown. "You sure about Travis?" he muttered. "Jenna's gonna lose it if you're wrong." I kept my voice low. "I'm not wrong, just keep him talking." Ethan hesitated, then nodded, drifting toward Travis with a forced laugh about football stats. I moved closer to Mom, who was fussing over the dessert table, the pendant glinting on her chest. "Anything weird?" I whispered. She shook her head, but her hands trembled. "He's been so nice today, Lauren." "Maybe you're mistaken?" Before I could answer, Travis excused himself, pulling out his phone and stepping toward the back gate near Dad's shed. My pulse quickened. I grabbed a soda from the cooler, using it as cover to drift closer, staying in the shadow of the oak tree. His voice was low, but I caught fragments. "Yeah, it's secure. No flags yet. Whitaker's out of the game." My blood ran cold. He was talking about me, about Silver Creek. I activated the pendant's jammer, praying it'd scramble any signal he was sending. Travis frowned, tapping his phone, then muttered, "Damn, connection's spotty." I needed more. A confession, something solid. I signaled Caitlin, who'd been watching me like a hawk. She nodded, grabbing Jenna and starting a loud toast about family traditions, pulling eyes to the picnic table. The distraction gave me a window. I slipped into Dad's study, adjacent to the backyard, where the sliding door gave me a clear view of Travis. He was still by the shed, now pacing, his phone pressed to his ear. My recorder caught more. "The drive's clean, but we need to move fast. Her family's clueless." Clueless. The word hit like a slap, but it confirmed everything. Travis wasn't just a cog, he was running point. I stepped out, heart pounding, and called out, "Travis, you got a sec?" He froze, his smile snapping into place like a mask. "Lauren, didn't see you there." He pocketed his phone, sauntering over, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. Jenna trailed behind, oblivious, her smile fading as she sensed the tension. "Everything okay?" she asked, looking between us. "Travis?" I said, voice steady. "Who are you just talking to about a drive?" His smile flickered, but he played it cool. "Work stuff, you know. Client freaking out about a deal." I stepped closer, my recorder still running. "Funny. Sounded like you mentioned me. Something about Silver Creek?" Jenna gasped, grabbing his arm. "Travis, what's she talking about?" He laughed, too loud. "She's paranoid, babe. IRS stuff's got her seeing conspiracies." I held his gaze, my voice low. "I know about Pinnacle Wealth, the shell companies, the burner phone, the Family Safe app. You used my family to get to me." His face hardened, the mask slipping. "You're out of your league, Lauren. Should have stayed on leave." Jenna's voice cracked. "Travis, tell me she's wrong." He yanked his arm free, stepping back, but I was faster, blocking his path to the gate. "You're not walking away," I said, my hand brushing the pepper spray in my pocket. He lunged, grabbing my wrist, his grip bruising. "You're gonna regret this," he hissed. I twisted free, shoving him against the shed, the wood creaking under his weight. Jenna screamed, and the backyard went silent, eyes turning to us. Dad dropped his spatula, sprinting over. "Lauren, what the hell?" Travis tried to bolt, but I tackled him, pinning him to the grass, my knee on his back. "Call Torres!" I shouted to Ethan, who fumbled for his phone, shock etched on his face. As I held Travis down, his phone buzzed in the dirt, a text lighting up. "Abort. She knows." My heart sank. Silver Creek was still one step ahead, and Travis wasn't the end game. Travis's phone buzzed in the dirt, its screen glowing with the damning text. "Abort. She knows." I kept my knee on his back, the backyard chaos erupting around us. Jenna's sobs, Dad's shouts, the clatter of dropped plates. My heart pounded as I pinned Travis, his polished facade gone, replaced by a snarl. The Plano sunset cast long shadows, the string lights swaying like they were mocking the scene. Ethan, still clutching his phone, finally got through to Torres. "They're coming!" he yelled, his voice shaky. I didn't ease up, my recorder still running in my pocket, catching Travis's muttered curses. Then, headlights pierced the dusk, tires screeching as IRS vans roared into the cul-de-sac. Agent Torres leaped out, his windbreaker flapping, followed by a SWAT team in tactical gear. "Whitaker, step back!" he barked. I released Travis, standing as agents swarmed, cuffing him with a metallic click. He glared at me, his eyes promising retribution, but I held his gaze. "Game's over," I said, low enough for just him to hear. The backyard turned into a federal operation in seconds. Agents secured Travis and swept the area, their radios crackling with updates. Jenna collapsed onto the picnic table, sobbing. "How could you, Travis?" Mom rushed to her, but her eyes darted to me, wide with shock. Dad stood frozen by the grill, his spatula dangling like he'd forgotten how to move. Caitlin grabbed my arm, her voice trembling. "Lauren, is this for real?" I nodded, my throat tight. "He's Silver Creek, been playing us from the start." Torres approached, his face grim but approving. "Good work, Whitaker. We got his phone, encrypted, but Kim's already cracking it. Linked to the same VPN as Delgado's shop." An agent hauled Travis to a van, his protests drowned out by the slam of the door. I caught a glimpse of the text again as they bagged his phone, sent from an alias tied to Silver Creek's top brass. This wasn't just Travis, it was a network unraveling. Inside, Mom's living room felt alien. The cozy space now a debriefing hub. Agents milled about, setting up laptops on her coffee table. Mom sank into her armchair, her face pale as she clutched Jenna's hand. "Lauren," she whispered, tears brimming. "I'm so sorry. I thought those papers were nothing. I didn't understand what you do." Her voice broke, and for the first time, I saw not just guilt, but awe. "You saved us, didn't you?" I swallowed hard, years of being the boring daughter dissolving in her words. "I'm trying, Mom," I said softly. Dad joined us, his gruffness softened, eyes red. "We didn't get it, kiddo. All this time, you've been out there fighting the bad guys." Ethan, leaning against the wall, nodded slowly. "I thought you just filed taxes or something. I was wrong, sis." Their words hit deep, stitching up old wounds, but Jenna's sobs cut through. "He said he loved me," she choked out. "Was it all a lie?" I knelt beside her, my heart aching. "Maybe not all of it," I said, "but he used you to get to me." Torres interrupted, holding his phone. "Whitaker, Patel wants you on a call." In Dad's study, the video link flickered to life, Director Patel's face stern but not cold. "You went rogue, Whitaker, but you delivered. Travis's phone gave us a direct line to Silver Creek's Dallas hub. We're raiding 3 locations now. Shell companies, offshore accounts, all collapsing." My chest loosened, a weight lifting. "The drive?" I asked. "Secure," he said. "Your encryption held. Suspensions lifted, effective immediately. And commendation for your initiative." I exhaled, the word commendation sinking in. My badge, my purpose, was back. But as I thanked him, a flicker of unease remained. Silver Creek's top players were still out there, and they'd seen my face. Back in the living room, my family gathered, their faces a mix of relief and raw emotion. Mom hugged me, her embrace fierce. "We're proud of you, Lauren." Dad clapped my shoulder, a gesture he hadn't made since I was a kid. Even Jenna managed a shaky smile, though her eyes were distant. The victory felt real, but fragile. Silver Creek's collapse was a win, but that text, "She knows," meant someone higher up was still watching. As agents packed up, Torres pulled me aside. "This isn't the end, Whitaker. Stay sharp." I nodded, my mind already turning to what came next. The barbecue was over, but the game wasn't. 3 months after the barbecue, I stood in the IRS Dallas office. The conference room packed with agents and brass from D.C. The air smelled of fresh paint and ambition, a stark contrast to the sterile grilling I'd faced here before. Director Patel, in person this time, handed me a plaque, Commendation for Exceptional Service. My new title, Senior Special Agent, came with a corner office and a team of my own. "Whitaker," Patel said, his voice carrying over the applause. "Your work on Silver Creek didn't just take down a syndicate, it exposed gaps in our system." I nodded, gripping the plaque, my badge back on my hip where it belonged. "New protocols," I said, addressing the room. "Randomized storage rotations, triple-layered encryption, and real-time tracking for all sensitive assets. No more blind spots." The room buzzed with approval, but my mind drifted to that night. Travis's arrest, my family's shocked faces, and Torres's warning. "Stay sharp." Silver Creek's top dogs were still out there, and I wasn't naive enough to think they'd forgotten me. Back in Plano, Sunday dinners at my parents' house had changed. The floral tablecloth was still there, the pot roast still simmering. But the air felt lighter, like a weight had lifted. Mom no longer interrupted to steer the conversation to Caitlin's patients or Ethan's deals. Tonight, as I passed the mashed potatoes, Dad raised his glass, his gruff voice softer than I'd ever heard. "To Lauren, who showed us what it means to stand tall." Caitlin clinked her glass, her smile genuine. "You're a badass, sis." Ethan, usually quick with a jab, just nodded, his eyes meeting mine with something like respect. "Didn't know you had it in you," he said, and for once, it wasn't a dig. I smiled, the warmth of their pride sinking in, healing scars I'd carried for years. But Jenna, sitting quietly, toyed with her fork. Her breakup with Travis had left her hollow, her laughter gone. "I still can't believe I didn't see it," she whispered later, helping me clear plates. I hugged her, my voice low. "He fooled us all, Jen. You're stronger than you know." Later, in Dad's study, I sat alone, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. The Silver Creek case had closed, Delgado's plea deal, Travis's conviction, their network gutted, but justice felt bittersweet. Travis wasn't the mastermind. He'd been a cog, like Delgado, taking orders from someone higher up. The text on his phone, "Abort, she knows," still haunted me. Punishment had landed, but true justice, the kind that uproots the whole machine, was still out of reach. I'd spent years chasing numbers, thinking they'd lead me to truth. But this case taught me something deeper. Relationships, not just cases, define who you fight for. My family's newfound respect wasn't just a win, it was a mirror, showing me I'd been enough all along. I thought of Dr. Carter, my college mentor, her words echoing, "See through the noise." I'd done that, but at a cost, crossing ethical lines, risking my family, questioning Ethan's loyalty when he'd just been curious. Self-worth wasn't just about proving others wrong. It was about trusting my own instincts, even when the world doubted me. Jenna's healing would take time, but she was starting to smile again, planning a trip to clear her head. As for me, I was ready for the next fight, knowing Silver Creek's shadows still lingered. If this moved you, like, comment, and share, then subscribe and watch the next story on our channel. There's more to come, and you won't want to miss what's waiting in the dark.